something that I noticed as a very interesting phenomenon because I'm on the West Coast and I assume you were on the East Coast still, like in,
Yeah,
say, 86, 87. Um,
yeah,
yeah, so I used to go to Palm Springs on spring break. Um, and that's like a huge spring break scene with, overrun with mostly Caucasian teenagers. And every year they always are blasting all these, rock tunes. In the summer of, like, I think it was 86, every one of them was blasting License to Ill, the Beastie Boys album.
right.
And to me, that was such a definitive uh, turning point in just the whole white community totally embracing hip hop, and the Beastie Boys' License to Ill was a big part of that.
Yes, because what you have is, I say again, the plagues of America, in my opinion, is racism, sexism, ageism, and classism. And I think that when we underestimate the most is ageism. So the racism is obvious. The sexism is pretty obvious. Classism is pretty obvious. But ageism is the one that's totally underestimated. And when the new generation, and I always say again, it went way further than black and white. It went to, as you just said, younger white teenagers having something that they can relate to and embrace, which is what the Beastie Boys become significant in, is kind of the gateway to, which people seem to still not pay attention to, the next executive is 17 at the time. He'll be the executive for X amount of years, and in X amount of years, for X amount of years. So by the time he's 25, he has a whole different taste than his father or his father's friends or comrades or whatever. So when those people take over the businesses or whatever, like what's what happens with the music industry and everything else, they have a different agenda and a different thought process to it. So, now you get to see, things of like publishing. If you understand anything about publishing, you start to do commercials or whatever. The executives at those ad agencies are now older than them. So they come up with whatever their taste was. So just like I remember groundbreaking that Pepsi did a Ray Charles commercial, that's because you have older people in Pepsi at the time. And then as the years go on, you get the Michael Jackson Pepsi Association, then you move on, you get the Britney Spears, the Pepsi Association. So as the generation, it keeps saying it's taking a generation, but you don't know who's behind the scenes making those choices as a generation. As you get older, the new executive is coming from a different generation, which is why they make different selections for the people that they decide to have those slots. So it's very, very interesting to me that the ageism is underestimated. And young and teenagers are relating to the Beastie Boys, and the Beastie Boys loving hip hop the way they love hip hop because at the time when they came up at and the musical influences they came under. Ironically, my guy Special K was telling me about the Beastie Boys because he would go down to NYU, and I wouldn't say coached them, but he hung out with those guys or whatever. And when I listened to some of the records, and I hear the records they're making, I'm like, they absolutely were listening to Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and Treacherous Three. They were listening to that stuff. So they made references to me on a couple of their songs. I guess they didn't like my report card, quite frankly, because I did a report card and highlights an album. And I graded all the groups because that was one of the things that I was very, very adamant about at the time. I was very adamant about putting perspective on popularity or talent versus or talent over popularity. So while I didn't think that, just because you sold the number one record or you have the best record that made you the best MC, I was always still trying to keep the integrity in what the MC was trying to do as opposed to what the business was trying to do.
Yeah, I fully understand. I definitely did the same thing with funk too. But what uh, what was the situation with LL Cool J and you? What went down there?
The same thing that happened again, the ages apart. You're talking about a 5 year difference, him being 5 years younger than me, and coming up with the Run DMC Russell Simmons zone. And I personally, if I just take it to the ego space, I didn't appreciate the whole crew, collective vibration of we're ending that old school stuff, and this is the new style. And my position was, not only is it not ending, I'm still here, and I'm still prominent, which is the whole key to how you like me now. Because you said I can only rock rhymes and only rock crowds, but never rock records. How you like me now? Which has been absolute egg in my face if the record didn't work. So the whole point was, they said that we were good enough to rock crowds, and we were good enough to rock rhymes or whatever, because they came up under us, so they knew what it was. But they didn't think we could make a relevant, so to speak, and I hate the term relevant, but they didn't think that we could make a current record that would sell. Because most of the groups of that time, again, Curtis Blow, Grand Like a Flash, 534, Treacherous Three, all that stuff, nothing was coming from them. So they were saying that stuff is dead. So as the last sole survivor of that era, my whole point was that is absolutely false. And to take that position, you're not even better than me, is my position with that goes. So just because you're more prominent or more popular doesn't make you better. So that was the impetus of the whole argument. Then evolved into the content of what you're saying. This is why I put the book together, just like the report card. You're not talking about anything of any relevance. You have no social relevance other than I'm great, I'm good, I'm bad. But where is your, Stevie Wonder, the well-rounded artist, Earth, Wind & Fire, songs that feed the soul, that move and motivate people? It can't just be how good you are and then say you're the best. And then I think he said I'm the greatest rapper in the history of rap itself. And, he started making proclamations on top of, so it was like doubling down on, not only am I killing the old school, I'm saying I'm better than all of them anyway. And then when you get to the social space, remember we're in the crack era, and this is why the I tell people like a 3-layer cake. The one thing you're saying we're dead, number two, you're saying you're better than all of us, and then finally, you're making references to, don't you know you're just a worker and your boss is my man. You're making reference to drug dealers being the alpha males as opposed to the guys that are trying to work at 9 to 5. They said, I'm only 18, making more than your pops. I'm like, that is some of the most destructive things that you could say to a young fan listening to you who, father's probably, just working 9 to 5. They might just be a construction worker. Who knows what he does? But saying I'm only 18, making more than your pops, and I hang out with drug dealers, I thought that was so off-brand, so off in terms of the message he was saying. And then to say you're the best, I'm like, absolutely not. You can't be the best and take that position. That was my thought process at the time. This is so funny because we've since buried the hatchet, and there was one thing, and I guess I'll tell him this when it's time, when I get the next TV show I'm working on. I think I told you about that. Because he said something about him being younger, and I truthfully hadn't put that in perspective. He said that I didn't consider the fact that he was only 16 talking about that stuff. And that is absolutely right, because I'm looking at him based on the prominence as a peer. So if he's 18 and I'm 24, I'm saying you should absolutely know better. But, he was 18, he was running around with some of the most notorious drug dealers at the time, up in Harlem and Brooklyn, and he was still impressionable by that stuff. So, doesn't mean you should get a pass, but I too understand it totally differently now.
Yeah.
Because again, back to the ageism. That's the one thing that the detriment of ageism is you're walking in different time spaces simultaneously.
So that was certainly one of the most famous, rap feuds that you two had. But then, years later, it got so ugly with the Biggie thing and Tupac and all that.
Right.
What was like your mental process when you saw things getting to those kinds of extents?
That to me goes into what I call the racism part of the equation. I thought that there was a social engineering coming on from a racist perspective where in between that we have what I call the public enemy explosion. And what the public enemy explosion did, in my personal opinion, is it put conservative white America on notice that there's a movement happening, and I think we live in a fear-based culture, and in a fear-based culture, it's very, very easy to scare conservative white America about quote-unquote, oh my God, the revolution. And Chuck D's voice made it sound like the revolution was actually happening. We are revisiting the 60s on steroids, and we're adding violence. I mean, we're adding aggression to it, musical aggression or whatever. So, Elvis wasn't here with a move. Never say the racist, never the play. No, they didn't hang your name. Like, wow. And to have Spike Lee put that as the theme song, the lead theme song for his movie, Do the Right Thing, at the time, it crossed Public Enemy over in ways they would have never crossed over just on their own. And again, the message and the pro-black content was so palpable that it was absolutely invigorating for young black America and intimidating for conservative white America. And it put us back into this powder keg space. And I say again, with the social engineering, we immediately, conservatives, whether they admit it or not, conservative label owners at the time, majors or not, started to seek out, okay, if we don't understand this music and we don't like it, it's obviously not a fad. It's 10 years deep at this point. They went from not playing rap records on the radio to playing rap records with profanity and beating out the profanity. I'm like, if you're going to, and which we all knew about at the time, payola and all that other stuff, how you get records on the radio, we all understood enough of the excuse me, those of us that know understood enough about the industry that nothing just gets on the radio. There's a process to getting a record on the radio. And if we got all this gangster rap on the radio all of a sudden, and we actually, enough that we have a gangster era in hip hop, so to speak, on the radio, they're beeping out the profanity. If you're putting profanity in a record, simple common sense says you're not trying to get radio play. The quickest way to not get radio play is put profanity on the record. The fact that you got records that were on mainstream radio beeping out the curses means that somebody wants that record played or those records played. So in my opinion, I call that social engineering and the counter to, okay, if we're going to have to deal with this music, then let's make it this way because at least gangsters talking about killing each other.
Well, also around the time Public Enemy started, doing what they were doing, you had, by '89, NWA doing, Fuck the Police and Ice-T doing Cop Killer and stuff like that. So.
Well, Ice-T came after that. Cop Killer was after, but in '89, you have NWA doing Fuck the Police and the stuff that they're doing. They were still looked at as, little underground. They still weren't mainstream. So it goes from, again, because a lot of things are happening too. You get the censorship thing, the explicit lyric stamp, the counters to hip hop is coming, and you got to put the explicit lyrics sticker on it, which was a sign to kids to buy it, which is always backfired back to the 80s that again. The elders don't know. It's like you're talking about protecting kids from the content. As soon as the kids saw the explicit lyrics sticker, that's the one they wanted to buy. Like you have an option to buy the album, the clean version, or the sticker. The sticker outsold the clean version 2-1, and not 3-1 every time, and you can do the research on that and see that was the case, and most labels understood that. So it got to, the more explicit the content was, the more visual and more attractive it was to the kids because they wanted it that way. They didn't want the filter. So we started to focus on the language as opposed to the content more than anything else. And then when you make it, the nomenclature of the era, when you make it a fashionable thing, so gangster became something fashionable, which coincided with the dress code and everything else, it got to the point where everybody was looking for a gangster album or a gangster record or a gangster artist, because that became the next cool thing to do, which means it now became more about the image than it ever did about the music.
Yeah, well, and being on the West Coast, I mean, that was really super, super popular, the gangster rap. I did like what they were doing musically, though. I mean, they were really dipping into the funk for the gangster rap.
Right, and that's where, in my opinion, Dr. Dre makes his bones and becomes one of the most prominent, influential hip-hop producers of all time, in my opinion. Because, again, the mechanics and the vibration, energy, frequency, and tone of consciousness make a difference. I think the vibration that he was tapping into was excellent. the frequency of what the gangster content was is what the problem was. Because a lot of times we're not paying attention to those things on that level. So a lot of times you don't know how the frequency is changing. What makes one thing cool in one era and then totally whack in the next era. And what makes something whack in one era that's totally cool in another era, so to speak. Because no one would even think. If you take hip hop in context and take it as a human, you know, and maybe it's like an adolescent or a baby, so it's a baby in '79 and it's a teenager in '94 and it's a grown man in the 2000s or whatever, you start to look at it that way or whatever, it's like what made the recklessness of the gangster era so appealing at that era? Because the frequency was changing. It's just like a boy growing up or a girl growing up or whatever, and you're not aware of sex as a baby, so you're just having fun. And then at some point you become aware of sex, so now you want sexual content. And even in imprinting, when you look at people's musical taste, your imprinting is usually about what music is prominent for you in your adolescence, because that's what will stay with you forever.
So Mo, let's get back to your second album on Jive, How You Like Me Now in '87.
Yeah.
This was probably, I'm thinking, was this your biggest seller as an album?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you had one under your belt with Teddy Riley, and then what did you do different on this one, and why did it blow up so big?
Again, frequency, timing, style. At that point, Wawa West becomes the mega record that you couldn't see coming. My dress code, my style, the shades, and everything that I was doing, plus my tone and confidence, I became like a person that even if you didn't know, you understood the backstory of how long I had lasted. And a lot of people still, to this day, when I get into a debate or whatever, you know, like I don't want to seem like self-serving, but I'm like, there's nobody else that's gone from the pre-record era to the early record era to what I call the golden years into anywhere near 90 anything. So it's virtually an impossible feat to do to survive through those eras as a prominent artist at the time. So How You Like Me Now was a statement saying, okay, again, I'm asking you as a question, but I'm making a statement with the question. It's almost like a loaded question. So I think that energy in its own resonated with a lot of people because, you know, I came from the States where they said it was only going to be a fad. So for everybody that said that, How You Like Me Now, it's not a fad. For everybody that said it was old school, it was over, well, How You Like Me Now, but it's not over. For everybody that said that we couldn't make records or the records were good, How You Like Me Now, you know. And not only that, the final stroke is Teddy Riley, which is the beginning of his career, quite frankly. New Jack becomes one of the dominant sounds of the era, and How You Like Me Now is the hip-hop version of the New Jack record. So again, How You Like Me Now, it's like, it's not only the top genre of the time, it's the artist from the time that isn't supposed to be here. So the How You Like Me Now is really, really the in-your-face frequency, and Wawa West brings it home over the top because it becomes the record that even elders who didn't like hip-hop, that weren't really, really hip-hop, especially in the black community, it was like, I don't really like hip-hop, but I love Kool Moe Dee and Heavy D. That was kind of like the going statement of 88 and 89.
And you had the support and backing to do some really nice videos. And did you have fun doing those?
Absolutely, because Jive Records was a gift. At that time, it was a godsend because it created a separation that I never had before, to be able to be taken seriously as an artist and have the artistry being shown on another level. I got a chance to do videos and things I never got a chance to do earlier in the career, whatever. So it created a space where you now understand what's the platform, what can actually be done.
And did you go out on many tours during those years, or do a lot of, you know, personal appearances?
Yes. The Dope Jam tour was the biggest tour. Well, the biggest tour I was associated with was probably the Budweiser Superfest with Al Haven. And that was with Hammer, Guy, New Edition, Kool Moe Dee, Karen White, and sometimes Patti LaBelle. So, yeah, great touring era from 88 to 90.
And I know you won the first rap Grammy, right?
No, I didn't win the first one. I was first one nominated.
Okay.
So yeah, the first nomination class was myself, Will Smith as Jackie Jefferson First Friends, Salt and Pepper, JJ Fad, and LL Cool J. That's the first rap category.
And you also performed.
The performance was just me doing an intro to one of the categories coming up, but that was just groundbreaking because they actually wanted Will Smith to do it, but they were boycotting because they weren't giving us TV time, which I thought was a misstep in the strategy. I always think of the bigger picture. The bigger picture makes better sense to get as much exposure as you can and then stand up for something or make a statement with the exposure you get. So I thought going on the show and the world press, and that's what everybody did to me, the misstep was, the world press is going to be at the Grammys. When you did the boycott, which Russell Simmons didn't even organize, but basically headed, and had his article, all boycotts said we're not going to the Grammys because they're not getting the TV time. I'm like, but you're going to be talking to 200 people in the Lamar Gion Hotel. The people that are coming to boycott is not going to compare to. It's almost like saying I'm boycotting the Super Bowl. The world stage is at the Super Bowl, so you're at the Marriott downtown with a couple of magazines that will cover it, and the world press is all at the Super Bowl. I think it made more sense to go to the Super Bowl and find a way to make your statement on stage, especially if you had it. You don't have to curse. You don't have to be crazy. You don't have to do anything that has to get leaked out so your message doesn't get heard. But there's a strategic way that I felt that we could have come up with to maximize the Grammy, which is what I would have done, quite frankly. I would have said, okay, if I'm doing it like Will Smith, I would have said impromptu, calling the people in the audience from hip-hop that were in the nomination class to come up on stage and take a TV moment. This is how hip-hop does it. We weren't recognized earlier, so we're on stage right now. And the category for the best so-and-so is, I would have done it exactly that way. So I just came out and, I said what I said before I did the show, did the performance or whatever, and got a standing ovation. So.
And what year was that, Mo?
1989, February.
89. And so I guess later, not too long after that, I'm not sure what month, but Knowledge is King came out that same year.
No, I'm sorry, May.
May, yeah. So, on this record, in your appearance on the cover and the title, it definitely seems more than on the other two that preceded it that you're really trying to get across, a positive message. I just feel like you're more concerned about the overall message here than on the previous two. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. You just like that, like I just said it.
Yeah. There you go. So this record had They Want Money, I Go to Work. To me, I think I Go to Work was, that might have been your most hard-hitting, at least in terms of a hit song.
Yeah, it definitely was. And it had a longevity that nobody saw coming because it wasn't a big radio record. It was big enough radio, but it, became like the aerobics class go-to, and a lot of dance crews had, battles on there, whatever. So the record had its own kind of longevity.
And this record overall just seems more up-tempo than the other two and a little more intensity. Did you feel like that was happening in the studio or what?
Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I was as an artist because I was, I was in the battle zone, and my which is very interesting, and I want to make sure I get this on the record. My battle with LL was more my battle with the LL Incorporation, the stuff around him. Def Jam and Russell Simmons and Leroy Cohen, they took a position where they were trying to make sure that they kept him ahead of me or kept me down or out of the loop. And I have letters. I can prove this stuff now. I'll be releasing my own book. where they were writing not them in particular, but their publicist was writing to BET about what they thought and what made sense and which way to approach, how to keep me out of the light, how to take me down and put LL in this spot or whatever. So that's the stuff that LL has actually nothing to do with. We're just artists doing what we do. But it's behind the scenes people where the real war, the real politics happen. So at the Grammys, there was a publicist by the name of Bill Adler at the time who went to the major magazines and took out Moe Dee's a sellout kind of campaign and try to create not a blacklist effect, but really, really a bad kind of backlash effect on me for going to the Grammys. And all those magazines were at the Grammys, which is hysterical talking about the flip around. Those magazines that they bought the time and the ad space for held their articles because they wanted to see how it played out because, the viciousness of the press is sometimes you want to be on the right side of things when it ends, You're on one side of the Vietnam War when it happens, and then when it goes down, but before it happens, and then when it goes down, it's like a Muhammad Ali thing. He looks like, oh my God, you're a draft dodger, how can you do this or whatever? And then when more things come out, and 3 years later, he's on the right side of history. It's like, wow, we get it now. And then the generation that's coming up at that point doesn't want to go to war and send our soldiers back home, and they start to realize that the information is a little different, and it's totally different from 3 years ago. So Ali gets reinstated. It's the same kind of thing. I make a lot of parallels with myself and Ali, of course, because of boxing again.
Mm-hmm. How did fame treat you, Mo? I mean, what were the pros and cons, and did you have to try to keep things straight in your head at times?
You said fame, F-A-M-E?
Yeah, fame.
Fame is a weird double-edged sword because I never did drugs. I didn't even get high and stuff like that. I didn't have too much problems with it, so I didn't have a lot of issues on the one hand. The most uncomfortable thing about fame for me is having other people speak on your behalf in terms of your mindset. Well, what Moe Dee is doing is blah, 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 blah. He's saying to himself, I'm like, I really, really hate that. I hate to this day when I see people on television talking about athletes and when they're negotiating their contracts and they're saying, well, right now he's saying blah, blah, blah. It's like, but you haven't heard from him. You just had somebody that's speaking as a know-it-all on his behalf. I have always hated that. So even people who spoke on the me and LL stuff or whatever, they had no idea what my mindset was. Like, nobody understood that as an artist, I actually thought LL was a great artist. I actually loved him as an artist from the hip-hop space. In terms of his message, I thought it was off-brand. In terms of him being better than me, I thought he was off-brand again. I didn't think that any of that was true. So when people were talking about the battle and, oh my God, he's jealous and he just wants to have this position or he just wants to sell, I'm like, that had nothing to do with anything. But there became a conversation where people were speaking their thoughts and telling you what I was thinking without actually having a conversation with me. That part of fame is frustrating. And that's to this day.
Yeah, I'm sure that would drive you crazy.
Yeah, yes. I'm like, that's not what I'm thinking. And I'm like, and now we're in an era where, like you're doing, like, you can actually make a call. You could get a quote. Now, you could say you don't believe me. That's one thing, but you don't even get my quote. You just run off and freestyle and say this is what he's thinking. He wants blah, 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 blah. He wants to do X, Y, Z. I'm like, you didn't ask me. You can really ask me. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Or when I hear, like the running lines in sports is like, whenever a player says it's not about the money, it's about the money. Like, you're just going to make that your thing. And that has nothing to do with what he said, but you're taking a cliche and making a cliche part of the course.
Hey, who's your football team?
Dallas Cowboys.
You're no way.
Yes.
That's my team, man. Because I was totally thinking about Zeke when you're like saying that, and I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan, but I can't believe you're from Harlem and a Cowboys fan.
Oh my God, I hate the Giants. You kidding me? I tell people again, and that's back to the ages apart. You didn't have to live through the Giants of the 70s, followed by because we didn't have, ESPN back then, we had, the network games. So you had the Jets and the Giants every Sunday. So in the Blooper Bowl, while the Cowboys and Redskins are playing the game of the week, we got the Giants playing the Packers, who they both sucked at the time, and the Jets playing, followed by the Jets playing the Patriots in the afternoon game, which is also the Cellar Bowl. So we would miss all of the great games, and the Cowboys by default, because I would get them a couple of Monday nights a year, Thanksgiving definitely, and then they were in the playoffs. So you could kind of get them, in that time of the season. But for the most part, you were stuck with. And the NFC East at the time, when it has 5 teams in it, I don't want to get into all that much, but it was just
the Cardinals used to be in there. Yeah.
Yes, the Giants had to play the Cardinals 2 times a year, and the Redskins and Cowboys were the cream of the crop of the group. The Eagles came on a little bit later, but the Giants had to play the Eagles 2 times a year. And although Giants, Eagles, and Cardinals were terrible, the Cowboys and Redskins were cream of the crop of the group. Then it flipped and the Eagles became good, and the Redskins weren't that good. But the Cowboys were the consistent team in the NFC East. And we had to, again, tolerate we didn't have any Thursday night football back then. Monday night football, you just look for the schedule and see, okay, Cowboys played 2 times this year. Yay. That was it. So it was very, very frustrating.
If you could see my my office here on the wall behind me, there's a bunch of music stuff, but next to the music stuff is a bunch of Cowboy stuff. So there's, the covers from Sports Illustrated, like Emmett and Troy winning the Super Bowls and all kinds of stuff. So.
Oh yeah, you can actually Google this. I think. Well, I have to the VHS tape or whatever. They had me on NFL Films because I'm at the Super Bowl when the Cowboys are playing the Bills, and it's literally a close-up of me jumping up and fist bumping and punching the air when the Cowboys win, when they score that touchdown or whatever, score a touchdown in there. I got a Troy Aikman jersey, and I am actually, tell people, I said, of all the hip-hop stuff I've done, I'm most proud of being on NFL Films, pumping my fist for the Cowboys. That's actually my favorite video of myself.
Love that. So back to rap. So around the turn of the 80s to 90s, so you had, the MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice and all this stuff. Did it got so commercialized and so popped out and things like that. What was your sentiments, for that kind of rap?
Yeah, I thought that was a natural progression, just like the rock thing for Run DMC. By this time, I'm a little older, a little wiser, a lot more business savvy, and a lot more industry savvy. So I'm like, I'm thinking Hammer and Vanilla Ice, while people were getting a backlash, I'm like, no, this is just pushing the doors further in for more stuff to come. I don't think we really get it. There's always a lane for this. And there's a lane for what I would call pop hip hop, just like there's a lane for rock hip hop. Just like there's a lane for just beat and rhyme hip hop. I said it has to continue to grow and continue to expose different lanes, and different lanes have to take their position at the top in order for it to grow, in order for it to have longevity. It can't stay one way. No matter what you do, it can't stay one way. It has to move.
And it was 91 when you came with Funky Funky Wisdom.
Yes, the death of my, that was so much politics and industry shenanigans behind that one that was not even, I wouldn't call it a swan song, I don't know what to call it, but it wasn't a good experience at all. The album wasn't good. They released an unfinished album for political reasons because they had the guy was going independent and they needed to deliver an album to RCA to finish their deal. So they gave them an unfinished album, and then I was playing catch up because I just had to go along with it because I was in the contract.
So what was it? It was just that they had changes in personnel? Why did things go sour?
Really? Hold on a second. Yeah, the real thing was gangster was trending. It was just starting. I don't even know if I have to think of the month exactly. If Snoop and Dre had hit, I know NWA had already done the SoundScan thing in '89, and then Isley had his solo thing. But gangster was definitely trending, and the label was wanting me to do. How they worded it was more street sounding stuff. And, without saying, the way you say something without saying it is, I'm not going to change my content to some gangster stuff because that's the trend. I didn't come in doing this to start following a trend to try to be hot. So they started looking for producers with the sound that they wanted. And they just were on an agenda to just release because they didn't want to be in breach of their contract. They were like, we have to deliver this album regardless. I was like, the album's not finished. It's like, well, it's going to have to come out. And that was what it was because they needed to deliver it. So when they delivered the album wasn't finished. RCA knew that they were over. So it's like, well, why did RCA put anything behind this when you guys are leaving to go independent? Because Jive is turning it into an independent label. So I don't have the content I want. I don't have the system that I would have had. There's no backing. There's no nothing or whatever. And then we're cutting, pasting, and you're throwing very little bit of money behind the last LL this. I'm like, the LL this is supposed to just be on the album for the last fans who care. It's not supposed to be. And they're like, well, we'll put a video behind it because it's the only one that's getting any trend or any noise. It wasn't very trending at the time, whatever the equivalent of trending is. We have now, told you that, the only thing that we'll put money in if you want to do a video is the LL thing because we're getting a little bit of buzz on that. I'm like, that's buzz based on curiosity. That's not buzz based on people liking the record. And, it's not something when you're arguing with the machine is going to win every time because the machine has the money, the machine is spending the money, and then you quickly learn that ultimately, unless you're in sync with them, they are in charge, they're the boss. So that was an album that I very rarely talk about because it wasn't finished. And you can even hear on the production, they lost their deal. Kenny Riley didn't get paid the way he wanted to get paid. So he was like, oh, I'm not doing it then. So, the equivalent of a holdout. They weren't going to pay Teddy Riley the money. They weren't going to pay for the producers that I wanted because their philosophy was, although P-Rock may be hotter and Premier, we don't pay producers money up front on albums that we can't guarantee sales that we don't have to deal with. So they wouldn't do one-off independent deals or whatever. So I had to sit back and watch Pete Rock do Down with the Kings, Run DMC, Premier do things with Nas and other people that were up and coming at the time. So it was a very, very frustrating thing to be on the pulse, know what to do, and then not have a situation that would back in.
They even threw a track on their Gangsta Boogie to try to get on that trend.
Right. And I said, okay, I know how to do Gangsta Boogie. And even in that, when you listen to the lyrics of Gangsta Boogie, the whole point was I made it a fun gangster thing. And I would have definitely done a video for that for something like Uptown Saturday Night or something with a pinstripe suit. I would have done a fun kind of mockery of a gangster thing, but it would have been 1940s gangster. I wouldn't have done a gangster video like they wanted me to do, like, streets and guns and no. So, yeah, it was very, very frustrating to say, you're not letting me be the artist that I could be. So it was exactly the opposite. Plus, there were new people and new regimes and new decision makers in the labels. I think like what happens that people don't know behind the scenes. So it was very, very frustrating.
You did get to work with Chuck D and KSR One on that, though.
KSR, yeah. Well, that was a project that I had talked to them about because they're also Leo. So I said, we got to do this Leo record. KRS, Chuck D, whatever. And Chuck was a good friend of mine, and KRS was a label mate. And at the time, I was a bigger artist than KRS, so it was easy for him to just do a record with me. It's no problem, because he never had any kind of pop exposure. And KRS was an absolute solid street, quote-unquote, hip-hop artist that didn't have to, he could do street without going gangster because he had enough credibility in that level. So, yeah, it was a very, very, for me, I thought advantageous shit or whatever, but they really just didn't get the idea. They didn't support it. They gave me a little all these plans, and we had all these plans before the regime change and before the tide shifted. And I said I wanted to do a long form video, the next level of the Canaan has done a long form video. That was the new wave of how to promote things or whatever. So, they did a long form video on the same budget that they would have done a regular video for, and then complained about it like $75,000. And so, oh my God, we spent $75,000 on this long form. Like, I was like, are you kidding me? It was crazy. So yeah, it was terrible. It was a terrible space.
I noticed Steve Arrington had some credits on there. Were those samples, or was that new? Did you meet him?
I just did a record with Steve Arrington literally last year, but I only had met him back then at that time for a quick moment. But yeah, those were samples.
So all of a sudden you're without a deal. What happens next for Kool Moe Dee?
I started focusing on my hip hop Hollywood thing. I had written scripts. Another thing that that I didn't talk about that I was telling Jive at the time, because again I always have visions that are bigger than the companies that I'm with. I'm saying we should do screenplays, and this is the stuff that they really, really like them at the end, and almost like a painful ha 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 laugh without a payoff. Because I said, myself and Ann Carly told them, and Ann Carly said Will Smith is a star. I said, let me and Will Smith do the same thing, do a remake of Uptown Saturday Night, Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. I'll be whoever you want. I think Will has comedic stuff or whatever, so he could be the star. But we could do a movie, and we should do what Motown did with Mahogany and Lady Sings the Blues, and be the first label to do movies with their artists. It'll be better for the artist. It'll be better for the label. You'll be looked at in a whole different space or whatever, and they couldn't get their vision. They couldn't hear it. So, 2 years later, Will Smith gets the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The rest is history. But down to 92. 91. Summertime was his last big thing, because they were also back then going independent thing. So yeah, it was a very, very frustrating time to be there and right at the epicenter of all of that stuff and tell them what I know, and knowing that we could have done what we've done. And then ultimately watching him and Martin make Bad Boys, I'm like, wow, we could have done that 5 years earlier, and it could have been him and I. Not that I would have done the comedic version that Martin did, but I'm like, we could have created our own thing and done what we did to make it what we were going to make it. And I knew we wanted to act because we were, very good friends and label mates at the time. So he would have loved to do it. We would have loved if Jive would have just stepped up and actually made films, but they didn't want. They had no taste for it. They didn't see the vision. They didn't understand it. And I'm like, it was the absolute thing to do, and they couldn't see it.
Yeah. What year was House Party?
House Party was 92.
Yeah. And you eventually did put out another album, though, right?
That was like a favor for a friend of mine, my DJ, my early DJ. He started to try to make his label happen in the South. That was in '94. When I thought Jive released me, but they didn't actually release me. So once you recorded it, they put a stop on the album and made them pay X amount of dollars to release some old masters that we weren't going to use, and then they actually made the official release.
What do you make of where rap has come to today? I mean, personally, maybe it's an age thing, I don't know, but as the 2000s came in, I became less and less overall engaged in, most of the rap that was being done.
It's a byproduct of the timing, and it's just, I would say, it became more corporate and less organic. Once the corporation gets in charge of it, it becomes something that they're manufacturing as opposed to something that's actually happening organically that people are vibing to. So, and then you have what I call entropy, a natural progress process of Michael Jackson's this brand new thing and it explodes, and then it's a trickle down, but it's so high, the trickle, you don't see that it's trickling down. You know it doesn't feel as hot, but you don't know what to do about it because it's entropy. It's like sitting in the analogy I make is like sitting in a hot tub of water. The longer you sit in the water, your body acclimates to the heat, and then the water's getting cooler simultaneously. So that's a natural process that happens with artists and industries and records or whatever. And then you can become obsessed with trying to create that same level of explosion before. And then when the corporation is doing it, then it becomes very, very predictable and stale, kind of, because you're trying to go for something. It becomes gimmicky. So hip-hop became pretty gimmicky or whatever. And the most organic stuff that came, again, ironically, is when Dre finally left Suge and got away from Death Row. He created his own thing, his next label. I forgot the next label. What was it? Aftermath. He dropped his thing on Aftermath. Then he dropped an Eminem Aftermath. Then Eminem dropped 50. And then you see what happens is that became the most prominent stuff in the industry. And because at this time, because of entropy, most people are now trying to follow whatever is hot. And now we're in what I call the follower mentality. From social media all the way through how many followers you have. Like people want to be a follower and have followers, and nobody's actually leading. So it's literally just getting followers for the sake of popularity. And the popularity is to get the numbers up, to make sure you can get the deal based on numbers, because all expectations based on popularity as opposed to anything to do with skill.
Yeah, I just feel like most of the cats I hear nowadays just don't have the flow, and they just, I mean, never mind, I'm not into a lot of the music either, but because a lot of it is not very funky, and it's, I don't know, man, it's just not connecting for me. So
Yeah, the thought process is not the same. The thought process is reverse engineering without engineering. It's how do you get hot? It literally is that. It's not what do you have to say, what are you trying to get across, what are you trying to represent. It's whatever gets you hot. Because we're now back to what I call the socialism or the classism part of the equation. I had one guy, son, I'm not going to say a popular artist, hip-hop artist, son said, if you have a job, you're a loser. Like, that's the mentality going in. They just want to be hot by any means necessary. And I don't care what the record is. If it's throw your titties on the wall, and that's your hot, then that's the best record. And then everybody will start trying to do those kind of records. Because they're trying to come up with a gimmick that'll work as opposed to having something to actually say.
do you feel like you get the credit and respect nowadays that you should?
That's a catch-22 because I don't know if I don't think history is celebrated as it should be in general, and credit has a lot to do with history, and history has a lot to do with being informed. And I don't think we have a generation of people that are really, really informed.
Well, they talk about that a lot with the athletes too, that they don't really know, what came before them.
Right.
What are you most proud about on what you've accomplished?
As ironically, keeping my integrity, being able to do the music that I wanted to do, and make the impact and imprint that I did without tainting my name. So again, no drugs, no alcohol, and all of that stuff or whatever. I think gave me the ability to stay focused and not have outlandish things in the equation. So whatever it's worth or whatever, I can always stand on the fact that, and not that I even like to use the term sellout or whatever, but I never gave into the industry pressures of doing the industry thing. I always did my own thing.
And you're still doing your own thing. So what I know you're working on that show, and maybe just talk about that a little bit, and also whatever else you have going on.
Yeah, so again, like I said, within the last 10 years also, 10 years ago actually, I did a show called Spitfire, Once again, arguing with a millennial. I was glad for the money they put up to get the show going and what we were trying to do. But the guy had a vision that it was going to be internet as opposed to television. And I'm saying, again, I am old school. I understand TV money. You do the TV first and the internet as your backstop, as your second tier thing, because you could have both. You could have a television show that has go online after the show to see whatever. But behind the scenes, off scene, you could have done that. But the guy that was putting the money up literally said, nobody will be watching TV in 10 years. No, 2 years, he said. This is 2008. Nobody will be watching TV in 2 years. And I said again, as a counter, America, if you know anything about the corporation, is an investment space. Whatever they invested, they get. They're not making new big flat screen TVs because nobody's going to be watching them. Are you out of your mind? So, and companies are not spending the amount of money that they're spending on the Super Bowl to advertise through TV, which is what television is about. It's an advertising tool. A lot of people don't do the history, so they will go for. Back in the day, they would actually say, "What do you buy Remco?" Like they would actually say, "Tonight's show, we feel ball, sponsored by Remco," because that's what it was. The TV show was to keep you there long enough to get the advertising. It's the exact opposite of what we're looking at. You think it's about the TV show, it's really about the commercial. The advertisers control television. That's how they sell their products. You do not sell products, and again, they're trying to do it on the internet. It doesn't have the same kind of impact. It's actually more irritating, quite frankly, for me, because you'll be watching something on the internet, and then, I guess it's movie marketing, you writing it, and the next thing you know, and then it'll cut, and then a commercial for something that they're trying to sell. And for me personally, whenever you interrupt anything I'm watching on the internet, that's a product I absolutely won't buy. My own personal rebellion. But
yeah, I feel you on that. It's a bad user experience when they do that. Yeah. So what else? How can people keep up with what you're doing?
Well, again, I'm very simple. Just Facebook, and I have a real Kool Moe Dee Instagram that my manager runs, and I don't run because he's very, very frustrated. I watch it, and that's because, but he's very, very frustrated that I don't post and advertise, whatever. I'm like, I don't want to do that until I have actually got something to sell. If I have a TV show to sell, or an album or a record or something to sell, then I'll post it because I'm trying to get eyeballs to that thing. Just being popular for the sake of being popular or posting or whatever, and people tell me, "Oh, you're so wrong." I'm like, I just have no idea or no desire to just post and sell everyday life as an event. It just doesn't work for me. I'm never going to do it. Oh my God, hey, great. Friends, like, I'm looking for likes for people to like the meal I'm eating. You've got to be kidding me. It's too mundane. It's mundanity and insanity for me. So I just stay out of it. And like I said, when there's something to sell or something to talk about, then I'll be a little more active. Until then, I'll just stay low and just stay underground or whatever. And I think in a weird way, I think it creates its own mystique. Some people, I don't worry about being forgotten because I'm like, I have enough in my own history and in my own legacy and in my own current state, so to speak. And I don't worry about being forgotten in that space.
What was it like working with some people like Quincy Jones and the Isley brothers and some of those guest spots that you were able to do?
Well, Quincy Jones is the experience of my lifetime, hands down, because I'm a big person for knowledge and insight. And Quincy Jones is literally like the walking human version of Yoda. The level of information he has, the level of experiences he's had, from the jazz era to the Michael Jackson era to the Will Smith on the TV show, which a lot of people don't realize that Quincy Jones' company is behind Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, whatever. He's a wealth of information. So when I'm around, I say Mr. Jones, when I'm around him, it's literally just shut up and listen. Take it all in, do as much as you possibly can. So that was the experience of my life. And I grew up again, the iconic people, Stevie Wonder, Earth and the Fire, Isley Brothers, Marvel, I should say. Those are people that I loved and couldn't imagine as a kid being in the studio with and working with or whatever. That I just have a very, I would just call it a warm and fuzzy feeling, the best way to put it. I love being able to work with the people that I came up under. I love.
Well, talking about Q just summed up a tremendous crash of thunder here. I don't know if you could hear that, but yeah. Hey, well, Mo, it's been fantastic getting this history with you and talking about your great career and all of your great insights. Much appreciated.
Thank you, man.
Hey, back at Truth and Rhythm headquarters. Thank you for joining us on another magical ride with Truth and Rhythm. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. Be sure to subscribe. Go to YouTube, go to the Funk and Stuff channel. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Also, goodies here like TIR Quick Takes. And if you subscribe, you know what? You get the show before anyone else. It's free. If you love jazz, funk, R&B, soul, you can't miss it. Pass it along. Tell a friend. Tell family. This audience is growing, and it is a beautiful thing, all coming together for the love of this great music. Also, if you can throw us a buck or two, we could use the support financially, keeping the lights on, keeping the servers going, all these expenses. If you can help support the program, whatever you can give, much appreciated. Go to the funkandstuff.net website. And on the right-hand side of every page, you just click and you can donate through PayPal, credit card, whatever. Very easy to do and so much appreciated. And if you do a sizable donation, I will mention you on the program. Also, drop me a line. Email me at ScottG@funkandstuff.net. Let me know who else you'd like to see on the show, what you enjoy about the music. Let's just kibitz and talk about stuff, talk music. You'll find that I respond very quickly, and I much enjoy the rapport and the camaraderie and the interaction. Always remember, this is your show, The True Music Lover. So for now, that's all the time we have for this one. It's a wrap. As always, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.